Hello nerds! Welcome to Generally Nerdy. This is your week in nerddom for the week of December 17th, 2018. That's right, the year is almost over. This is your last week in nerddom video for the year because I am going to be working on everything is very, very close. Like I said in the, it was either Hellboy or Aladdin, one of those two reaction videos. Everything is getting very, very close to completion. So in order to get it all the way to completion, I am taking the last week and a half-ish of the year off so that I can make sure that it is done. I'm not really taking it off, I'm just not doing the videos. Very possibly could do another reaction video if something else drops between now and then, but I don't think it will. Also, as soon as I can link to it, as soon as it's posted, I am going to be over on the Big Show Entertainment Network reviewing Aquaman. Remember, I was supposed to do Aquaman and Fantastic Beasts 2. Fantastic Beasts 2 didn't happen for reasons, but it sounds like Aquaman is actually going to happen. I do have the tickets and so on and so forth, so we will see. That is tomorrow as I am filming this, so ideally it should be today as this is posted, but I don't know. I've got a lot on my plate, so I'm not holding my breath. This might not get posted till Friday. Anyway, we've got a lot of stuff that we're talking about this week. We're going to just punch through most of them. There are a few that we will expound upon, but before we can get to any of that, let's hit up the intro.
Quiet on the set, rolling.
Hi, I am Bitsy Telek.
Hey, I'm Hale Appleman.
I'm Walter Kane.
I'm Rene Aubergenois. Odo on Deep Space Nine.
Michael Dorn, Lieutenant Commander Worf, Star Trek The Next Generation.
Come and see me and hear me and talk to me and listen to me talk about myself.
Hey man, this is Kevin Smith, often considered generally nerdy, and you are listening to what is often considered generally nerdy.
On Generally Nerdy.
You're listening to
Generally Nerdy.
Generally Nerdy.
Generally nerdy.
First thing on our list, we are talking about A Quiet Place 2. Krasinski is working on it. He's got, at least from what it sounds like, either a draft of the script done or is close to finalizing the script, because there is enough of a script that he has shown his wife, Emily Blunt. Yes, Emily Blunt. He's shown his wife what he has for the script. So again, it's either a complete draft or it is close to complete version that he's going to turn into the studio. And what she said, and this is his quote as he's quoting her. So it's a quote of a quote. Yeah. He says, "This isn't a sequel at all." She said after he showed her, "This isn't a sequel at all. This is the second book of a series of books. It's widening of the world." So, and he also prefaced the statement by saying he's not really writing a sequel like we think of sequels. He's not writing a cinematic sequel in that it's the same group of characters in a different but similar situation. This is the same universe, just we're in a larger and or adjacent section. So this could very potentially be a continuation of that story to some small degree, or more likely is elsewhere. This is what was going on at approximately the same time as the first movie, just in a different part of the world. All of these things are potential, but he hasn't expounded any more than that, so we are moving on. Next on the list, we have the Joker. Joaquin Phoenix's Joker has finished on primary photography. We are very likely going to see reshoots. I don't know of a movie in recent history that's of this caliber that hasn't done reshoots, so that's still coming down the pipe. It would not surprise me if we got a trailer towards the end of January, though I feel like the more likely bet is sometime in February we're going to start seeing trailers for the Joaquin Phoenix Joker. Then they're going to do reshoots after they do test audiences. So it's coming up real quick. I would imagine we're going to be getting a release date for this movie very soon as well. But we don't have any of that, so we're moving on. Next, we are talking about the Mortal Kombat movie, which might happen now. James Wan, though, said very recently that if they can't get all of the things they're trying to get, all of the... What did he say specifically? All of the... Oh, I didn't write it down. Because I'm a winner. But effectively, he's looking for the proper director, and he's looking for the studio to approve a budget. Didn't say how extravagant the budget was or how big it may or may not be, just said he's looking for approval on the budget. So, yeah. The other really interesting bit about this is he is now no longer associated with the reboot of the Resident Evil franchise. So he's freeing up some space in his schedule so he can make Mortal Kombat. He's producer, so he doesn't really need a whole lot of room on the schedule, but whatever. It's gonna happen. My hopes are very high that this is actually going to be a thing that comes to fruition. But that's all we have there. Next, we're moving over to Batman, and we'll touch a little bit on Batman, but we're going to talk about it again in a minute. But so this bit about Batman is Matt Reeves. Apparently, his final version of the script is due to the studio before the end of the year. So he's not even done with the... Oh man, so much about this movie is like, why not? Why has it taken you this long? I understand you're trying to do the best Batman movie you think you can, but there's just so much that just doesn't make sense about this right now. And again, we're going to get into this a little bit deeper in just a minute, but right now that's what we've got for that. Matt Reeves is turning in a final version of his script by the end of the year, which means so that they can meet their production goal of, I believe they wanted to go into production by like March of 2019, if I remember correctly. I couldn't find a specific date for anything recent, and I believe what we talked about before was March. I could be wrong, so if I am, hopefully I'll be able to put something in post, or you guys will correct me in the comments, whatever. But that's all we've got there. Next, we're talking about Supernatural. Jeffrey Dean Morgan has been confirmed to be in the 300th episode, which I believe comes after this mid-season break, or yeah, I'm pretty sure it comes after this mid-season break. I couldn't find the exact one. I didn't really look that hard, so I apologize. But Jeffrey Dean Morgan will be returning, will be reprising his role as the Elder Winchester for the 300th episode for the season. So that's two pretty epic things. They've made it to their 300th episode, which is fantastic. And we get Jeffrey Dean Morgan back because he's amazing. So yes, that's what we've got Supernatural. Now we're on to Superman and the Man of Steel. And this is where we're going to expound a little bit on the Batman movie as well. So Jason Momoa has been very vocal recently, as you are wont to do when you have a giant blockbuster movie coming out in the Christmas holiday time. So he's been talking a lot to the press, and they haven't been very shy about asking him about Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill and whether or not we're going to see Man of Steel 2 and if Affleck is going to don the cape and cowl again in the new Batman movie. And basically Momoa has said more about Cavill than Affleck, but still has implied Affleck is going to be in the cape and cowl as well. But specifically about Henry Cavill, he has said that he's not done portraying Superman and that he still anticipates being in Man of Steel 2, and that Man of Steel 2 will still happen. And then, just a couple days ago, we got Amy Adams kind of slipping up and saying she wasn't going to be Lois Lane, and then correcting herself and saying, actually, I shouldn't say that, I haven't talked to anybody, this isn't set in stone, it is still possible that I will be Lois Lane again. So everything, again, is still very much up in the air, but it sounds like the actors involved still want to be involved. So that at least bodes well. Next on the list, we have Are You Afraid of the Dark, the movie that's happening. DJ Caruso, who did Disappointments Room and Disturbia, is in talks reportedly to direct the movie. So they were good movies. That's not bad news necessarily. They weren't great movies, but they were still pretty good. So, who knows? We'll see what happens. And then following that, another scary book from your childhood, the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. has a release date. It is now August 9th, 2019. Next on the list, we're talking Battlestar Galactica. Like I said, we're gonna punch these guys out. Battlestar Galactica is next on the list. We are getting another reboot of the story of Battlestar Galactica. Apparently, this has been in the works since about 2009, which, given that time frame, kind of lends you to think, well, maybe they were originally planning this to be a movie continuation, because they did some direct-to-TV movies of the reboot series that started in 2004. Started in 2004, ended in 2009, so again, that time frame kind of makes sense. But no, apparently this has always been a separate story from all of that. This is another reboot of the original story from the 70s. So, very weird goings on there. I feel like that is one that, given the distance between the end of the series and now, it makes sense to do a reboot. But if they had gotten to make it back in 2009, there would have been a lot of very upset nerds. Just saying. So they are still planning on making it. They have a new screenwriter attached to it, who is Jay Basu, who did The Girl in the Spider's Web and the new Charlie's Angels reboot. So neither of which is the greatest example of writing in the world, though I haven't seen either of them yet. But just from what I've heard of The Girl in the Spider's Web and the little bit of promos I have seen, that doesn't look great. Charlie's Angels, there's really a very small chance that that's going to be very good. So again, it's not really looking too hot there. But the original version of the script that he tweaked, that he adjusted, that he worked on, the original script was penned by Lisa Joy, who, if you don't know that name, she is one of the creators of Westworld with her husband, Christopher Nolan. Not Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan's brother. Yeah, I don't remember his name for some reason right now. Something Nolan. Anyway, so she's one of the creators of Westworld. So how much of her script they keep probably will depend. Will decide rather how good this movie comes out. Dollars to donuts. I bet that's the way that goes. Next on the list, we are talking about Spawn. Todd McFarlane has been teasing that he is very close to reaching a deal for the movie, so that's still happening. Jamie Foxx is still going to be the star. They just need to get the money in order, and Jeremy Renner also has been cast, though I don't understand how that works when there's no studio behind it. If they've signed, there was word that Jamie Foxx had officially signed a contract to play this part, but signed a contract with Todd McFarlane? I don't know. That's kind of a gray area. Same thing with Jeremy Renner. Did he sign with Todd McFarlane? I know McFarlane has a production company, so that kind of makes sense, but there's no money there. There's no studio that's going to put this out yet. It's apparently very, very close, but it hasn't happened, so who knows. Next on our list, we are talking The Mandalorian. First, before we actually get to the TV show news, I need to ease a little bit of tensions in the Star Wars realm. There have been a number of clickbait news titles about Star Wars. Disney is canceling more Star Wars, and I know Cosmic Book News posted that title, something akin to that title anyway, and they're trying to make it sound like another Star Wars movie or another Star Wars franchise has died. That's not the case. If you read the articles, all of the articles are about Disney canceling Star Wars Day at the Legoland, all the Lego theme parks. They have a Star Wars Day, and Disney said that this year's Star Wars Day is the last one for the foreseeable future, not ever. It is still potentially going to come back at some time, just not right now. The most likely theory about that is that it's so that they can direct focus to the new Lego movie, the Lego Movie 2 that's about to come out, and they just greenlit a script for the Lego Batman movie sequel, so plenty of other things are going on in Legos. They don't need Star Wars to be mucking it up, because after episode 9, we're gonna take a little bit of a break, like we learned from Bob Iger a couple of months ago. So anyway, Mandalorian, not only have they officially announced that what's-his-name from Game of Thrones is going to be inside that Mandalorian armor that we saw, but there have been some set pictures recently that show the very potential we're going to be seeing classic bounty hunters, that is a tongue twister, IG-88 and Bosk, who are from the original universe, but they were from the literature, so the extended universe, which means when Disney bought them, they became a myth. So how much they're going to factor into the story is still yet to be seen. There has just been sightings of them, so it even could just be a background little Easter egg thing that doesn't ever get any story action. Who knows? Everything is fair game at this point, because they're not taking as many risks with Star Wars, I feel like, right now, which is probably a good thing, but that's a whole other conversation for another day. We're moving on. Next, we are talking about the Netflix Marvel universe, which has dwindled down to 2 shows, Jessica Jones and Punisher. That's all that Netflix is going to be putting out. And very likely after the next season of both of those shows, and even potentially before the next season of both of those, since Punisher... Actually, no, Punisher we will likely see the next season, because I'm pretty sure they're in production for it right now. Jessica Jones, though, we very likely won't see another season from, because I don't think they're in production. And if they're not, then it's probably the next one to be canceled. Anyway, this is not necessarily about that directly. This is about Kevin Mayer, who is the chairman of Disney's direct-to-consumer line, so their apps, effectively, which includes the Disney Plus app, which launches January 1st, I believe. I'm pretty sure I saw that it's January 1st. So this guy, Kevin Mayer, has said that while there are contract conflicts right now that are prohibiting them from putting up Daredevil and Iron Fist and Luke Cage and Punisher, and in the future when this happens, Punisher and Jessica Jones, there are contract issues that are stopping this from happening, but he said that it's not out of the question for them to reboot those series, or even potentially just pick up where they left off on Netflix once those contracts with Netflix officially run out. Also, they are making it sound like it was Netflix that canceled those shows and not them. And I don't think I believe that one. But from here on out, the MCU movies, all of the Marvel movies that come out are at least the Disney Marvel ones until the Fox-Disney merger goes through. And we've got some news about that to talk about in a minute as well. But all of the new movies, so starting with Captain Marvel, they are not going to Netflix. They will be going directly to Disney Plus for their streaming app so that they can reap all the benefits for themselves. And speaking of Netflix, we are talking a little bit about the Dark Crystal. We got a casting announcement for Dark Crystal. Mark Hamill, the Joker, and, you know, that other guy, Luke Skywalker, that guy, he's going to be one of the voices on the Dark Crystal series. There were a couple of other voices announced, nothing as big and major as Mark Hamill, so that's pretty epic in and of itself. We only have 2 more bits of news to talk about, and then we're going to do a couple of comic book reviews, because that is going to be part of the new format, so this is going to be a little bit of a test, so there you go. But next on the list, we're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy. Speaking of comic books, the new comic books, now that Thanos is dead, spoiler alert, now that Thanos is dead, we're still gonna get Thanos? So the new Guardians of the Galaxy book is in its description for the March previews. I think the previews we got now are for March. they're talking about there's a new threat that is just as big as Thanos, but they don't really go into any more specifics about it. So we don't really know that for certain, but whatever. It's going to be, this new story arc is going to be written by Donny Cates and Jeff Shaw, who are names you should know if you're reading your comic books. If not, Google them. They're pretty great. In this story, there is a new Thanos-level threat, and it's going to take the Dark Guardians to defeat it. So the Dark Guardians, you're seeing a picture of it right now on your screen. Nebula, I'm not looking at the picture, so I can't exactly. Nebula, Gladiator, it's the only two I really remember, but still very interesting. I don't know if the Dark in Dark Guardians is implying that they're some sort of anti-heroes, or maybe potentially kind of like bad guys who have to go good in order to save the universe, because nobody wants the universe to explode, because then they're dead too. So I don't know exactly how they're going to spin that. It'll be an interesting thing to keep an eye on, and we'll definitely talk about it when it happens. Again, I believe that happens in March. And then our last bit of news is, again, the Disney-Fox merger. We're going to go a little bit deeper into that, because there's been a snag. So Brazil has slowed the process down in the approval stages that we were in. And then second, Mexico, who I believe has already approved the merger, has started going through it a little bit more in depth, and they've noticed an issue. And it's kind of the same issue that the States had. When it got approved in America, there was a stipulation that they had to sell off some of their sports broadcasting arms because they would have too much of a market share. It would be too close to a monopoly. So to keep things on the up and up, they have to get rid of some of their sports. And I'm sure that's not a big issue, because sports television anyway, is a losing game. They're not really making as much money as they once were. So, similarly, in Mexico, they're saying, wait a minute. If this goes through, Disney is going to own, I have the numbers, Disney is going to own nearly 30% of the market in Mexico, while Warner Brothers only has 15.12%, and Universal only has just about 11.5% of the market. So they're going to have almost exactly double the power of their direct competition. So very likely what's going to happen is they're going to do for Mexico what they're doing for America, in that they're going to just sell off their other sporting divisions. No big deal, but they're having an issue selling them off because, again, sports television is a losing game anymore. You're not making as much money on the broadcast side of things. It's more streaming and such. So Iger, though, has come out and said that he anticipates everything is going to go through as planned, and also all of the other media outlets are still anticipating this going through as of the new year. So as of a little over a week from now, it's still potentially going to happen. That's not a whole lot of time to ease these minds or try and sell off a chunk of your sporting division. So it could not happen. There is a very, very small chance that it still could not happen. It's not very likely, but it is there. But anyway, that is all we have right now for the news, guys. Next, we're moving into some reviews, and like I said, we're doing comic book reviews, even though this is a everything episode. We're going to just be doing some comic book reviews. We're going to be reviewing both The Batman Who Laughs and Goddess Mode. So I need to set up my cameras and such, so give me 1 minute and we'll be right back. Alright, so I know it wasn't really a minute for you, but it was a couple of minutes for me, but, you know, the magic of editing. So this is going to be part of the new format. So this is something of a trial run. We're only doing 2 comics going forward, just to kind of give you guys a heads up. Before, in order to make a full video on a subject, I had to have at least 3 news articles to talk about. Generally, I tried for 4, but if I had 3, I would let it happen. If I could only find 2 things, then I lumped it in with one of the other videos. Now, that's changing slightly. We're going to go for only 2. I mean, if I get more, because it's bound to happen. So 2 is the minimum, and then at least 2 things to review in that category as well. If those 2 things don't happen, then it gets lumped in with another video. So we have 2 comic books to talk about this week. First up is Goddess Mode. Remember, we talked about this when we were talking about the reboot of Vertigo, and this was the only new Vertigo book I was really interested in reading, which kind of makes me sad inside because it's written by Zoe Quinn. Right there, Zoe Quinn. So, the story is not bad, and the art is not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. So, there's just a couple of things that I wanted to. I mean, there's the obvious parts. This right here on this page where she's talking with her boss, and the expected thing that's going to happen is she's going to get fired, and then she gets promoted instead because she has skills that we don't know about. It's the obvious kind of agenda section of the book, but really otherwise there's not much here to hate on, which I think is a good thing. There's the difference between worlds, because we go back and forth between the real world and this this VR world. The difference between worlds is very visually obvious. I think that's brilliantly done. Really, this book is a good read. This is a good setup for a new series. As much as it really hurts my soul to say Zoe Quinn did a good thing, Zoe Quinn did a good thing. So check out Goddess Mode. Definitely worth a read. Our next book that we're talking about this week is The Batman Who Laughs. I definitely could be talking about Batman Damned. I might be saving that till book 3, just because I still want to get a little bit away from Batwang before we can let that taint the screen. But anyway, Batman Who Laughs. Pardon the paper towel table. It is what it is. Batman Who Laughs. This one, I feel like if you were reading... Oh, what book was that? I think it was the Justice League, the Drowned Earth books. If you've been reading Drowned Earth and the last issue with the Legion of Doom, I think it was issue 14, maybe it was 13, they gave you the last few pages of this book. Almost the last few pages. We got up to here. So it starts here, Arkham Asylum, and ends here with the Batman Who Laughs coming into Joker's cell to potentially kill the Joker. He doesn't kill the Joker, but we're gonna go to the front of this just because the art in this is so much better than the Detective Comics run right now. Just the use of the darks and the balance, and these feel like cinematic shots. They don't feel like panels in a comic book. And then this right here, this moment where it ended, I honestly, when I was reading this the first time, up until this point, I was like, well, they already told me how it ends, but there's more pages, so don't you worry. We're not going to go all the way to the end because I don't really know how those copyright strikes work with comic books just yet. So, but yeah, it's definitely, they let you know that the Joker that the Batman Who Laughs killed was a decoy that the Joker put in there somehow. They don't know exactly how he slipped in a decoy, but he always slips in a decoy. Jock and Snyder together on this book. They've been together on previous Batman books, so not really a surprise that this is also a definite recommend. This is such a great setup. Such a great setup for a new Batman story that needs to happen because we're about to get crazy SJW Batman. There's a new writer coming on. I believe she starts in February. Her books start getting published in February. And she's never written anything before. I'm not thinking of her name right now because reasons, but I believe there's one book to her name and it's not a major publication. So she doesn't, and she's unfamiliar with the whatever. This Snyder book, this is where you want to go after Tom King is no longer on Detective. Even now with Tom King, you still might want to not read all of those books because Tom King's really hit and miss as far as his direction goes. The writing that he puts into it doesn't work. I feel like is the best way to put that. But yeah, that, guys, is the reviews for this week. They will get a little bit more in detail and in depth. This was just a trial run again. But thank you guys for watching all the way to the end. This is Generally Nerdy, your place for all the nerd news every week. What did I miss? What should we talk about come the new year? Let me know in the comments down below. There is a website, generallynerdy.net, that you can go find all of the things. There are other things that are exclusive to the website up there. There's stores up there so you can get nerdy swag. All of that stuff exists over on generallynerdy.net. Or there's a Patreon, patreon.com/generallynerdy. Go check that out. That is about to undergo some major changes as well. And until the new year, guys, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.